Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. It's Sunday. We are live. Live. Let's see, what's the date today? I'm going to start trying to put the dates in my video so people don't get confused. I like to interject re-uploads every once in a while because they are very pertinent to what's going on right now. So yesterday's show was a re-upload. I know it gets a little bit confusing, but if you just listen carefully to what I'm saying in the description and stuff, I usually will put a clue in there that a particular show is a re-upload. I'll say that somehow. I might not always put it in the title, but I will somehow let you know it's re-upload, or in the chat. It all depends. So today is Sunday, February 26th. And yesterday's show, of course, was a re-upload. If you missed that show, we decoded the pre-pandemic Netflix series called The Rain, and it related directly into what's happening right now about a toxic rain that carried a black goo pathogen in the series. And we talked about in that re-upload a train roller coaster, which we just had a derailed train. And there was a company called Apollon, which is what's falling on people's cars right now as we speak. We're going to cover that today. And also in that movie, there were 2 shots, all before the train disaster, before COVID, all of that released in a movie. The double shot roller coaster ride. Well, there was a roller coaster and then there was a double shot. There were both. Now, the roller coaster, of course, represents the serpent, the train derailment. But the double shot is a vertical ride, and that's the portal that takes you through. It's the plunger of the needle. That's what it is. The double shot. It brings you up and then plunges down. So, check out yesterday's show. Eerie synchronicities to what's happening right now. And today we're going to be talking about the very same elements in mainstream news. Trains, toxic rain, which is probably what train stands for, right? T-rain, toxic rain, terrain. We're also going to talk about a mysterious pollen-like substance falling all over cars in multiple states. Now, they're not admitting that this is fallout from the chemical train burn yet, but they're pretty much ignoring all of the signs. This is not covered by mainstream media. There's a media blackout about this fallout, which is probably why you're just hearing about it now, or only in our community. But it has become clear that something is not right. It's too early in the season for pollen to be falling on cars. It's not pollen. By the way, the word pollen has Apollyon in it, or Apollon. Same root word. Now, when you Google search weird powder falling from the sky, you get all kinds of weird pictures, videos, and social media posts of it happening. But you don't get hardly anything from the mainstream media covering it, not even local media. I only found one story of local media covering it. I'm going to show that to you this morning. Now, the only media of any significance that was covering this, we had to hear it from Antonio Sabato Jr., from a Playgirl model turned soap star. The only person covering this. Let's play this as he shows this weird powdery substance on his car. Several reports of an unknown white powder or dust sediment falling out of the sky through West Virginia and Maryland. Those are 2 states. Let's see what the ex-Playgirl model turned soap star has to say about this. There's the dust. I guess he's just showing. He's not really saying anything. Look at that. Now, where is the mainstream media? Of course, they're downplaying this. They would rather focus on the Ukraine war and these balloons and all this weird stuff going on instead of this monumental environmental disaster. And they are in complete denial at this point. Now, here's the only local news station that I could find that was covering this. Let me make sure you guys are with me, and we'll get into that. How's the sound? Antonio Sabato Jr. is the one reporting on this. Unbelievable. Here in Michigan, it was in the snow. Made a video about it. Yes, social media is talking about it, but not the media. Look at this. Mysterious yellow dust covers neighborhood. This is Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Let me read this. A mysterious yellow dust has been covering cars, streets, and homes across town. Now, you guys, we had just covered this in the X-Files episode where the yellow rain was falling down on the migrant workers. The dust in Cedar Rapids, Iowa is not a pollen invasion, but residue from a grain processing plant nearby. So this is the cover story. It's a grain processing plant. It looks like artificial snow almost. Hawkins said he's seen dust in the air before, but not of this yellow color. The street sits in between an ingredient plant and an interstate highway. An ingredient spokesman says gluten was released from the plant due to equipment failure. Oh boy. Hope you don't have a gluten allergy. But this is how ridiculous this is, because if this was really gluten, you'd have thousands of children, going into the hospital for gluten intolerance. Because, just the dust from a peanut can make them sick, then you can imagine if they're breathing it in. So this whole story is hogwash. Let's see if there's some video here of this.
It looks like
I just can't even believe this is happening. And no one's covering this. Except for in our communities. Our alternative media communities.
Almost.
Jeff Hawkins woke up to cars along his southwest Cedar Rapids street.
There it is, you guys.
Dust.
Even when the trucks drive down the street, like right now, you can even see it blowing.
He says he's seen the dust before, but it's never been
all over the cars.
yellow.
Now,
I've seen it not as bad as it
why
is
isn't he
today.
talking?
Coloration, no. I've seen it discolored before.
And the substance is difficult to clean off.
Look at this. You got snow on the ground, and you got this weird dust.
Dave Crowder says he'll likely need a car wash.
It covered the whole car. I mean, having to clean all that off before
For some reason, this boy's sound is not coming through.
The street is between ingredient.
Who knows? Could be like copyright or something. Or maybe a cover-up again. So, this is what's going on. This one, again, is in Iowa. So we have Iowa, we have Maryland, and what was the other state I mentioned? So, what else is going on? Well, apparently, people's eggs are coming out purple. Are you kidding me? Now, a couple of other alternative media sites have reported on this already a few days ago. We're a little bit late to this one. But this woman in this story, Ohio train derailment after chemical burn, farm owners worry about a cherished way of life. This is New York Times saying that she bought a white turkey a year ago for $3, was put on antibiotics for respiratory problems, and her chickens laid eggs with an unsettling purple hue. Ultraviolet. Now, did the New York Times bother to take a picture of these purple eggs? Of course not. But here's what is clear to me. That something is falling from the sky. This is the toxic rain. Just like in the series on Netflix. Now, here's what makes this even more bizarre. Because it appears to me as though these purple eggs were all predicted in the nested reality animated film I, Pet Goat 2. The purple eggs. Now, why do I call this a nested reality animated film? Well, because we found meanings within meanings of pretty much most of the scenes in I, Pet Goat 2, haven't we? Not only is this purple egg significant in its meaning in terms of the serpent being wrapped around and altering the eggs with whatever it is that they're dropping on us, but it also has to do with the culturing of vaccines. Now, not the vaccines that are out right now, but in history's past, most vaccines were cultured in chicken eggs. Here you see the silhouette of the child inside of the purple egg. Mauve, I guess you can call it. But here is what's creepy. You see the pollen-like fallout coming down out of the sky. And many people notice this from the very beginning. It almost looks like snow in I, Pet Goat 2, but other people thought it might be ash or fallout from the sky covering everything beneath it. Now, there are many more deeper meanings of this as well. The serpent wrapped around the egg is the Orphic egg. That's what it is. And it's basically the serpent attacking the womb, putting his two fangs into it, right? Biting the woman, the seed of the woman, trying to alter her so that the Holy Spirit cannot reside in her anymore. Fangs are like hypodermic needles. They're hollow to inject a venom. Now, the media is even reporting that almost 50,000 animals have died as a result of the burn and spill. You guys, this should be the #1 story in America right now. And sadly, it is way down on the list. Nobody cares about these people and the impact in the environment. These controllers talk about the environment so much, don't they? Oh, we need to save the planet. Oh, no more gas stoves for you. And then you look and they're the ones doing it and then covering it up. Estimated animal death toll from Ohio train derailment tops 43,700. This is dated February 23rd. Unbelievable. 3,500 aquatic animals. Now, how in the heck can they count this? Of course, the numbers are much higher. They're just giving us the numbers that they're willing to concede. You get no mention from the president about it. You get no mention from anybody. And here's the latest. Residents are now being diagnosed with bronchitis. Was this NBC News? Residents near Ohio train derailment diagnosed with ailments associated with chemical exposure, including bronchitis, headaches, rashes, respiratory problems. And again, these are only the things that they're admitting to. They're not going to admit to cancers yet. This is dated February 25th. This was yesterday. They're not admitting to the long-term impacts of this, because if they did, they would have to pay for it, wouldn't they? We need to be praying for these people. We mentioned this the day it happened and told you that this wasn't a nothing sandwich, that this is real. And I remember that day telling you, if you had a way to get out of there for a while, at least until this blows over, pun intended, that you should. And now the story just keeps developing. Now, what is damaging is if you think this is all a big nothing sandwich, because then you're not letting people get out of the way. Okay, this really happened. Now, what next? Well, it remains to be seen, doesn't it? Now, I've got some other headlines, less important headlines to cover, but I wanted to get that out there for those of you. I wouldn't be going out for a run in this. I wouldn't be outside. I would be protecting yourself from this if you can't get out of the way. Let's go back into the chat and see if there's anything I missed about this very important event before we get into the rest of today's headlines. Unbelievable. The heartland of America. Just breaks my heart. Alright, what else is going on here? Water supply is going to be touched. I agree 100%. Now, there was a story where they were trying to say, let's bring this one back up here because this relates directly into this train derailment. They're really trying to say here that there was a train derailment 40 years ago. They're calling it deja vu, NBC News. And this train derailment they're trying to compare it to happened down in, I think, Louisiana in 1982. Now, what makes this weird is that this was the specific time frame in which the movie White Noise came out. It was like, what was it, 82, 83, 84, somewhere in there, and where there was a train derailment, where they used extras in the film that were from East Palestine. So here they're trying to compare the two. Deja vu, right? And what was spoken in the movie White Noise. The boy said one of the side effects was deja vu. Remember? And we had just decoded that film Deja Vu before the train accident became national news. Because in the movie Deja Vu with Denzel Washington, he saw the future in the deja vu, didn't he? So that was the clue, that the movie White Noise was really about a future train derailment. So here they are throwing that deja vu word out there again. Let's read this. In the darkness on the morning of September 28th, 1982, a train jumped its tracks and sent more than 30 tanker cars filled with hazardous chemicals or fuel crashing near a commercial strip of Livingston, Louisiana, about 20 miles east of Baton Rouge. Chemical leaks and smoke plagued the area for days. Cars were sitting there burning and smoldering 5-6 days after the derailment. One of the cars just blew up and went 600 feet into the air. Livingston's derailment offers one of the closest parallels to the disaster unfolding in East Palestine. Both were major train crashes. Both involved some kind of chemicals, including vinyl chloride. Both communities saw train cars catch fire and chemical fires pollute the air. And both communities have grappled with deep concerns about the safety of the air they breathe and the water they drink. More than 1,000 train derailments happen each year. Incidents involving hazardous material are rare. Railroads report 12 hazardous releases in 2021. Wow. You think that each one of these hazardous releases would be mainstream news to warn people about what's happening. But they would rather have us distracted with other things, right? So, this is what's going on. 40 years. Just like in the movie White Noise. Now, let's get into some of these other headlines. Apparently, I didn't realize this when I was decoding Rihanna's halftime show. She had a lot of complaints. Apparently, according to this article, she was spreading her butt cheeks and feeling herself up on stage. Now, I didn't see all that, but it has now come out as well that she is and was, in fact, pregnant. So, Inanna Ishtar overpopulating rabbits out of control confirmed. Let's read this. While almost 119 million viewers tuned into Rihanna's Super Bowl halftime show, of course it had to be 119, right? That's 9/11 backwards. Not everybody enjoyed it. TMZ obtained 103 complaints made to the FCC about the broadcast. They said it was basically, I'm not going to say that word, that'll get us flagged, but overtly sexual dancing, movements that were patently offensive and inappropriate for children. They said it was indecent and they had to turn it off. She spread her butt cheek at the crack. She rubbed her pants where her curtains were 3 times. So, unbelievable. So this confirms kind of, some of the decodes that we did on this about her dancers looking like rabbits populated out of control. I do also understand they kind of look like people in biohazard suits. And I wouldn't say any of those assumptions were incorrect, because we live in a nested reality where things have multiple meanings, don't they? Unbelievable. Now, let's get into these next stories. Now, apparently, witches are now heroes in Ukraine. The Witch of Ukraine reveals how teeny-weeny American weapons are beating Russians. So, of course, she's mocking the Russians, but in a roundabout way, she's kind of mocking American endowment at the same time, isn't she? With their teeny-weeny American weapons. Let's read this. The United States has supplied weapons of increasing cost and sophistication to Ukraine, including an M777 howitzer, Javelin top attack anti-tank missiles, and eventually M1 Abrams main battle tanks, Patriot air defense systems. These small arms have made their way to elite commando units, but also to some of Ukraine's under-equipped troops. Formerly a lawyer working on her PhD, let's back up here a little bit, because we don't know who Witch is yet, right? Okay. These small arms have made their way both to the elite commando units, but also to some of Ukraine's most under-equipped troops, where they're making a difference, as testified by Olha Bahar, known by her call sign, Witch. Formerly a lawyer working on her PhD, Witch now commands a mortar platoon. At least 57,000 women serve in Ukraine's armed forces. Wow. So, we're now interviewing witches. Unbelievable. Apparently this is her. Not going to click on that. Probably some sorcery come through the television. So, now you know the truth. Let's get into some of these other stories here. Never a dull moment, is there? These people are always throwing stuff at us. Well, let's get into this Fox News article and read about weekend at Biden's. Kamala Harris, completely out of touch with working Americans. As the headline says, energy experts bash Kamala Harris over dubious energy price claim, completely out of touch. Now, what's the claim? She is saying that Biden has reduced heating and electricity bills. Really? It's just the opposite. They've gone up. Now, remember when the last gaffe that they did, when they were saying that, oh, inflation's not a big deal. It's the least we can do to support our overseas efforts. A little bit of inflation never hurt anybody. Not a big deal. Completely out of touch with working families that are living paycheck to paycheck, where the inflation that we experienced actually made people homeless and probably made a lot of people really depressed. And now here she goes again, trying to say that, oh, they've lowered our home heating and energy costs. Really? No, you didn't. Sorry, that's a fail. Now, what other stories do we have here? Now, they're claiming, this is Popular Mechanics, claiming a new free energy device has emerged. But do you think that's going to be free for you and me? Probably not. Now, they're claiming here that they were able to make energy out of thin air. Let's read this. Scientists defy physics, basically pull energy out of thin air. Now, of course, all this is happening in a laboratory. We'll never really know if this is real or not, but this is what they're telling us, probably prepping us for some energy that is going to come out eventually that you'll have to take a mark to be able to use, right? Energy teleportation sounds like the stuff of science fiction, but now research shows that you can actually pull energy from nothing. You think? Using quantum mechanics, 2 different physics experiments prove it's possible to conjure energy from an energy vacuum, essentially pulling energy out of thin air by teleporting energy across microscopic distances, helping bolster a 2008 theory from Japanese physicist Hata. This really does test it. Okay, so they've basically created some kind of free energy, so they say, and I guess it remains to be seen how all of this shakes out, right? All right, what else do we have here? This is the Miami Herald, and they're finally admitting the environmental toll of electric vehicles versus good old gasoline. Now, everyone's been saying this for a long time, and now all of a sudden the mainstream media is admitting it. Electric vehicles and the untold secret. Are they actually worse for the environment and more dangerous than gas? And we've all heard the stories of these EVs catching fire, but it also just the mere development of the technology and all the different components that they use have to be mined out of the earth. They have a much greater impact on the environment. And then some of these components are toxic and have to be disposed of once the batteries go bad. Batteries last anywhere from 5 years to maybe 8 years. Remains to be seen. They are claiming 10-year batteries, but are they really? And a lot of that is based on how often you charge the vehicle. Because every time you charge it, the battery loses a little bit of efficiency. Electric vehicles are all the rage. They are touted as a cleaner and more sustainable alternative to gasoline-powered vehicles. The United States government has passed numerous legislative actions to phase out gas-powered vehicles and make sure that within the near term, all vehicles are electric. So if you had any doubts, they're telling you right here, this is the goal, the electric kingdom, which we've been saying was going to happen for the last 5 years. Common belief is that electric vehicles are more environmentally friendly. The dark secret, neither are true. They're not safer and they're not more environmentally friendly. So they talk about the battery here, the environmental impact, the mining of raw materials, disposal of those materials, even producing a lithium-ion battery requires a significant amount of energy, which is generated from non-renewable resources. When you average that out over the life of the vehicle, it just doesn't pay off compared to what you use in a car, in regular gasoline. Then it says there is no the decomposition period. How long does it take for that ion battery to decompose? They're saying hundreds of years. So then they talk about the dangers of the batteries catching fire. Literally, they're just recounting everything that they were in denial about 2 years ago. When people like us would say all this stuff was happening, they dismissed us and called us misinformation. And now they're disclosing it. You see the pattern here? Not that we're right about every single thing. Not that the alternative media gets it right every time. But this is a good lesson in understanding how these people work. Okay? Because now the evidence is out. Vehicles catching fire everywhere. They can't cover it up anymore. Think about the toxic smoke coming off of those burning vehicles into the environment. No one's talking about that. So this article is a really long article. I'm not going to read that whole thing. I'll put a link to this and all the other articles that we talk about today in the pinned comment. Let me check in with you guys and we'll finish up these last few stories. Now these next few stories are probably going to enrage some people, but try not to get upset about it because it's part of the psyop. Okay? because this newest stunt of people of, how do we put this, certain non-gender, I guess you call it, they want us to believe that they're nicer than regular people. Let's read this article. They're so nice that they descended on this Girl Scout who was selling her Girl Scout cookies, and they bought the whole stand. Everyone was so friendly and kind. Oh boy. Now, please reserve your anger, because understand this is a psyop story to do exactly that, to get you angry, to get you to say and do all kinds of angry things so that they can then delete you from social media. These are trigger stories. I'm sharing the story with you to show you the agenda. Okay? That they're basically making it so that children accept all this. Okay? And wow, is all I can say. Let's read this. Sienna 11. Now, think of the name of this girl, okay? And think of the cookies. Sienna Levin. Let's go and do a little Q&A here. Why would they choose a girl named Levin to talk about Girl Scout cookies? Let's see who gets it first. We have some really smart people in the room, as always. You guys are some of the most educated people out there when it comes to our alternative community. I'm proud to say that. Many of you are way more smarter than me. Yes, Unmasked Truth nailed it. A little leaven. Why? Now, we talked about leavening of the bread being the sin. Absolutely, Araceli. The yeast. Absolutely. And the fact that they're talking about cookies, which of course is basically, I don't think cookies have yeast in them, but that's the joke, because they add the yeast with the people that showed up to buy all the cookies. Right? So good job, you guys, on that. So now there is hope, but they're going to call, well, let's read this first and then we'll get into the next story, because we're going to tell you what Tennessee's doing about all this. So they want you to believe that these people are nicer than regular people, that they bought the whole stand. Of course, they're doing that for image, right? It's to portray, they've got some image problems that they're trying to work on to make all this more palatable. Sienna Levin is on a mission to claim another Girl Scout badge, and recently she got a little help from the drag queens and gay bar patrons of West Hollywood, prominently LGBTQ neighborhood in Los Angeles. The precocious 7-year-old, who is a daisy, the beginning level of the Girl Scouts, for those 5 to 7 years old, there's that 57 again, has been a proud member of her Glendale, California-based troop for 2 years. Out of this Girl Scout cookie season, from January to April, Sienna tells Yahoo Life that she was looking for a location with high traffic, low competition, to sell as many cookies as she could to raise money for her troop. She certainly found it. Over the course of 2 Sundays in early February, Sienna, along with her mom, Jen. Okay. So her mom's name is Jen. Let's go back in the chat. See who gets this one. What is the significance of her mother being named Jen? I mean, this is unbelievable. It makes you wonder if either the story is fake or this is a supernatural manifestation, and all of us with eyes to see exactly what is going on here is supernatural revelation of the method, or we live in a matrix. So, what is Jen about? There you go. Chris got it. Gender. Bingo. Now I see other people saying Jen like a demon. That could be also a nested truth as well. But I think the main truth, because there's always a core truth, right, is Jen stands for gender, because obviously those are the people that bought her cookies, her unleavened cookies. This is just unbelievable. Well, let's keep reading this here. There might be more clues. This is why we call this show Between the Headlines, right? So we don't take the headline at face value. We decode the headline for what it's really doing. Her 4-year-old sister Riley and her aunt Julie sold out of all their inventory twice. That's thanks to the support of the local queer community. Sienna says they're also really good tippers. The tip of the pit, tip of the needle, whatever you want to call it. It was so fun, she says. You're just walking and like they'd stop. When they see one person buying, they'd all crowd in. And you know, look, this is the, how do I put this? The guard, this has always been the case in this community. Your guard is down because, what, from my memory, people was like, those are the fun people. Those people have personality. Those people say what's on their mind. They don't hold back. They're real, right? And so people let their guard down. I remember it was very popular one time for women to have gay friends, gay guys, because he was like one of the girls, and they would all go out and have a great time, right? Now, how is it that a group of people could all be acting that way? That's a spirit in them. Completely different people from different walks of life with the same spirit in them. Is the way I look at it. That's what it looks like to me. With the spirit that draws a child in, almost like a clown would. Now, I'm not saying these people are clowns. I'm saying, like, this is what clowns do. They let your guard down. The spirit of gregarity and fun, which is exactly the only way you could get a child to lower their defenses and maybe accept this as an option later on in life. Right? So I'm not going to read the rest of the story, but here is how Tennessee is responding to this. Tennessee is set to become the first U.S. state to ban drag. Now, this just broke a couple days ago, 3 days ago. And let's read this to see what this is exactly about, right? Tennessee lawmakers passed a bill banning drag shows in public on Thursday. Okay. Sending the measure to Republican Governor Bill Lee's desk. Let's see if Bill signs it. If he doesn't sign it, that might be a huge red flag. The law would make Tennessee the first state to ban public drag, which could also affect the LGBT pride celebrations and transgender people who are on shows of any kind. There are currently 20 bills in 15 U.S. states aimed at drag queen performances. Huh. Wow. Does anyone in Tennessee know if the governor signed this bill yet? Is the question. Please put that in the chat for me if you could. Now, this is our last story. This is an update on those poor cows. The feral cows running around in New Mexico. And the people there think it's safer to just kill them and let them rot, spilling into the streams, poisoning all the streams, than to have some kind of, if this is a real problem, have some kind of open season for hunters. At least the meat could be harvested. And look, I don't have any problem with that, because that's what we're allowed to do. It's our Adamic given right. Well, actually not Adam, it was Noah. Because Adam ate fruits and vegetables. He was vegetarian. It wasn't until after the flood that God gave humanity the edict to be able to eat meat. After Noah got off the ark, you can go back and read in Genesis, and God says, now, he goes, just as I gave Adam the right to eat the herb-bearing fruit or something like that, he goes, now you are able to eat animals, but not with the blood in them. So this is our right, and rather than waste them, they should be able to be harvested just like all the other cows we eat when we go to the store. I don't see a problem with that. Now, should they wipe them out? I don't think so, because these cattle have become their own species almost. They're probably one of the United States' very few herds of wild cattle roaming around. But here's the thing. They don't want wild cattle roaming around, do they? Because then guess what? You wouldn't be buying your meat in the store that's all, tainted and farmed in a way that affects the meat and all that stuff, right? They can't have you eating an organic cow. God forbid. you might like be healthy. So there's a lot that's going into this whole thing. This is why they won't let people, harvest them. I mean, this is crazy. I mean, if you think about this, I mean, what if people start harvesting these cows and they're like organic meat and like they got like strength from it, or they started being super healthy? Couldn't let that get out, could we? That could destroy the cattle industry. Because then people would demand that we maintained herds of organic and free roaming cows. People would start to demand that so that we can hunt for them and eat good meat instead of tainted meat, right? So we do live in a matrix. Now, tomorrow and the next day, I have shows already lined up for you guys. Tomorrow is the newest episode of Servant, and I took a look at the other X-Files episode that involved fungus. There were 2 episodes over the X-Files years that involved fungus. We already covered one of them. I'm going to cover a brand new one. Not a brand new one, but another one about a fungus deep inside of a volcano. So we're going to cover that tomorrow, and then the day after that, I found something very, very disturbing. When I decoded the movie Ultraviolet from 2006, what I found in that movie that stars Mila Jovovich is that Bono from U2 is likely a vampire. Now, I know that sounds silly, but you're going to see what I found day after tomorrow. Now, the movie Ultraviolet is about light-sensitive vampires and a pineapple-shaped sphere that looks exactly like the sphere where U2 will be performing Ultraviolet in Las Vegas this year. There are many other synchronicities. Mila basically plays alongside a boy named Cameron. In real life, his name's Cameron Bright. Well, in the movie Ultraviolet, Mila was 30 years old, which is the exact same age that Cameron is now, even though he was a boy in the film. So, 30 and 30. So, there's another synchronicity that suggests that it's all happening right now. I also found a Polaroid of Bono wearing fangs, and it was taken as a fundraiser and auctioned off. It was turned into a clock. And, of course, Bono is light sensitive. He has glaucoma. He is sensitive to ultraviolet light. Yet, U2 made a song called Ultraviolet. It's unbelievable. Now, we're going to break all that down. Now, what interests me about this is a particular YouTube channel defended Bono. And interestingly, a YouTube channel that makes sunglasses or made sunglasses in the past defended Bono as one of the only good people in Hollywood. So now you have to go back and think about who it is that you are going to believe. Man. Now, I'm still decoding all this. I've got to, I'm working on my show notes for Ultraviolet. I definitely want to make sure I do a good job on that because the proof is irrefutable. Mila even wears these rose-colored glasses like Bono does. It's unbelievable. Anyway, let's go into the chat here and see what's going on with you guys. Welcome, everybody. Plays in the Dirt, Iggy Pop, Alfredo, TK, Lorraine Rain, Pure Blood. All right. Appreciate you too, Judo Royalty. Thanks. Judo Royalty, sorry. The Ferris Seas. Yeah, that's great. That's a great play on words there. Ferris, like iron. Now, I grew up on U2's music. Love them. But as you wake up to the Matrix, you realize that all's not what it seems. All is not what it seems. So I'll break all that down over the Oh, it says Sabato Jr. campaigned for Trump, says S. Michael. Thanks for that extra bit of information. This is why I love the chat, because 1,000 heads are better than one, aren't they? Bono looks like Robin Williams to me. He wears glasses day and night mostly. Yeah, he has a condition called glaucoma, or so he says. It's sensitivity to light, which is what vampires have. Now, that alone doesn't prove anything. A lot of people have glaucoma. But you will see the synchronicities in the movie. It is. If you just go look at the thumbnail for that show, that live show that we're going to do, you will see I put a side-by-side of the sphere in the movie and the sphere that they're going to be performing at. And they're identical. We're going to talk about what that sphere actually represents spiritually as well. The sphere is the womb. It's the matrix womb. Born into sin. All right. Thanks you guys for all your hard work. You guys make this channel. As I always tell you, it's all of us working together. I would have never looked at the ultraviolet film had not one of you or several of you mentioned that I should look at it. And I started watching and it seemed dumb and slow, and I guess it was a box office failure, but I just kept at it and all this stuff came out. So you guys will all see that for the first time in a couple days. I love each and every one of you guys. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Take care and be safe.